Okay, good morning. It'll be Thursday, the 3rd of August. Well, we do have a ridge of high pressure out to the west, which is attempting to settle things down. It won't work this time, but certainly as we look towards next week, the middle part of next week, things may well settle down. For us today, it remains low pressure, generally higher than what it was the last couple of days. And there's a chance of some showers with a trough line, which isn't really on there at the moment. Starting to pick up a northwesterly flow, becoming northwesterly during the day. So a bit of a drier airflow over the country, and is why that hopefully the soil conditions should be slightly better. But yeah, all eyes out for that transient ridge of high pressure, which we should get tomorrow. Looking at the winds, 320, 10 to 15 knots. So yeah, comparatively light compared to recent days. Satellite picture over the UK shows a fairly sort of mixed variable cloud starts, but a nice slither of clear air through the Midlands and the south as it comes through. Hopefully we'll get into that as well, and we should get a relatively nice morning as it continues to go on. The public forecast today showing 19 degrees being the top temperature. That wind starting off pretty cross at 10 knots or 8 to 9 knots from the northwest and then becoming northwesterly during the day. Good visibility and cloud base quickly rising up during the day with the chance of a shower this afternoon. GFS says it might get just a little bit warmer than that at 20 degrees and maybe even 21 in isolated patches. And as we look at dew points, well, it depends really. They may fall down into sort of single figures down to our southeast, which is probably where the best soaring conditions are going to be today. The sounding looks like that, so fairly moist at the moment. But once you sort of separate some of those lines, you will actually get a reasonably nice air mass with cloud bases potentially on the south coast of 4,500 to 5,000 feet or so with a bit of luck. But yeah, this taken slightly early this morning with a bit more in the way of the cloud that you can see on here at the moment. But 15 degrees being the temperature currently, dew point of 12. Picture outside is that, so yeah, you can see that upper level cloud sat there currently, but that will start to thin and break as the morning goes on with probably cloud base currently of around 1,500 feet, but going up. Farnborough are currently reporting 1003 as the pressure, broken at 1,600 and broken at 2,000. But yeah, you can see there the winds varying around quite a bit, northwesterly. But scattered at 2,000 feet being the headline figure. But I think when you look on other TAFs, generally you can start to see the cloud base will go up later in the day. And if I look at Shoreham, for example, which shows the cloud being in lesser amounts. So yeah, I think day to wait and see how it sort of bubbles up. Won't be a particularly quick start, I imagine, not before 11 o'clock really, before it gets decently good. And looking at top meteo, which is probably on the optimistic side, as it always is, because it keeps thinking the temperatures are a degree higher than they should be. That is the potential flight distance for today. I think it's broadly in alignment that the south coast should be fairly good. And in this direction, there's always the chance of a little bit of convergence down there near the sea. And at least you can go and have a look at the seaside. But this is sort of showing us as not having so much cloud over the top of us. If I show 9 o'clock, then it thinks it's fairly blue to sort of isolated cloud, which I would say there's a bit more cloud build-up than this suggests currently. So knock a little bit off of this and you'll probably not be far off. Looking at, therefore, the thermal heights, with start time of 11 o'clock, yeah, maybe you might get 3,000 feet, 3,000 feet by 11:30 or so. A bit drier up towards Dunstable, where it might get a bit higher earlier as it generally does, not so good out to the west or northwest where there's more in the way of cloud. By sort of lunchtime, sort of 1, 2 o'clock, this would have you say you would have 5,000 to 5,500 foot cloud base. We'll knock it down to, let's knock it down to 4.5. Then you probably won't be that disappointed if it's a little bit more lower on the temperatures and a bit more congested cloud. Looking out to our west, more risk of showers and a lower cloud base generally, maybe looking 3.5 in this region out to our west. But around where we are, probably peaking at 4,500 feet above the airfield also, if we get what we see here. By 3 o'clock, as you can see, the shower development starting a bit more in the West Country, not really causing us too much of a problem, but doesn't rule out an isolated bit coming through. But yeah, still cloud bases generally 4,500 feet or lower, 4,000 feet above the airfield. And yeah, on an area from here down to probably about Kent and maybe up towards Oxfordshire. As we get to about 4 o'clock, it does fall apart fairly quickly with the deterioration in soaring conditions and a bit more in the way of cloud. So yeah, don't expect too much past about 4:30 or so, as that shower activity might increase and the cloud amounts do too. Looking at top meteo, this is where it gets it wrong. I think it does not actually plan the cloud amounts as much as it should do, but it probably forecasts the afternoon right with chance of spread out, which I think we could probably see the risk of on the sounding. But yeah, it's going to be sort of mixed with a window probably between about 11 and 3, and at least that's what David has said. I'll just check he hasn't updated anything, but yeah, I think looking at it down to the southeast or up to the north for a little bit, but wait and see. So your site forecast to summarise for today, a later start than top meteo suggests, weak thermals to start with, but by lunchtime hopefully getting 4,500 feet above Lasham with stronger climbers building. And yeah, it looks good down to the southeast and just to our north. Airspace wise, I'll come on to Kemble in a minute. Article dropping at Abingdon for pretty much most of the day, so just to the south of Oxford. That's taking place today between 1 and 5. So probably best not to fly to the top of that. Paragliding going on all along the downs in Berkshire, so keep an eye out for them. They might even be coming our way if they're launching from there. Paragliding near Keevil. It's paragliding in Dorset as well. Little Rissington 80Z is active. They've got Ecodeck gliding going on there at the moment. Number 7 is an air display in East Sussex on the coast, somewhere east of Brighton, between 3 and 3:10. Don't know much more about that, I'm afraid. And other than that, the usual danger areas and the like are active. I'll bring up Kemble now for you because that is the flying appointment today. Let's bring that up now. Kemble controlled airspace temporary between 14:20 and 15:35. Ignore this circle, it's a slightly older diagram I'm using. The rest of the circles do apply during the day. So yeah, 14:20 to 15:35, that area not good to be in. This bit starts at 4, the bit that isn't shaded in, and this is surface. Yeah, raw flight effectively. Check there's nothing else on there whilst I leave that up there for the moment. Don't think there is too much. The Salisbury plane is active as per normal. There's lots of training going on there at the moment, it would seem. Operationally today, runway 27 in use. Let's see how many, there's 43 of you on here. I'll once I've got to the airfield, I'll have a look to see if we need another grid, but it sometimes is a little bit difficult getting enough hands to run the grid at the moment. But yeah, looking at that, 27 in use with winching on the south side airtowing from the runway also, but I'll confirm via one of the David Masson groups about the grid by 9:30. Finally, just for our lots, there's been a lot of glider allocation changes due to serviceability. Those booked in SH6 are now allocated to SH7. SH8 will be released to service with another piece of paperwork by 10:30. And Sam Cool is flying 431 this morning, unfortunately. Good. So yeah, 27 in use, no jet movements. Just be aware of that Kemble control space temporary, and just take into account the crosswind today, especially when laying off a drift on the winch and when coming back into land, as yeah, it always is a little bit turbulent in a northerly here. Okay, enough of me blabbering. See you on the airfield. Bye for now.